Well, Meera Sanyal is now joining us, former CEO and chairman with the Royal Bank of Scotland, India, as well as our internal editor, Maithili, is also with us. Thank you so much for taking out time for us. Meera, let me come to you first. Before we address the IDBI issue or what's happening over there, a newly IAS appointed chairman has come in for ICICI Bank. It was largely on the expected lines. Meera?
Yes.
Did you see the news regarding ICICI Bank, where a new chairman has been appointed on an interim basis, who was a ex-IAS officer? It was largely on the expected lines.
Well, I think they should have actually chosen someone who was from the industry, because that is what is needed at this moment. But certainly better to have a chairman than not to have a chairman. So I suppose that's all right.
All right. That, of course, was on ICICI Bank. But Maithili, I'm going to pose the same question to you. We have an ex-bureaucrat who's come on board the helm of ICICI Bank. He's going to be interim chairman. What kind of a flavor do you think he's going to be adding to the board of directors? Of course, we at ET Now had a chat with him first, and he said it's too early to lay down a plan. But what sort of a flavor do you think? What do you think is going to be his input as an ex-bureaucrat on the board of ICICI Bank?
The CMD was split and you started having a chairman and an MD separately. It is basically the MD and the CEO who looks after the operational aspects of the bank, and the chairman is there largely to give direction. It might be putting it too strongly, but it's largely a ceremonial role. Having said that, the fact that ICICI Bank now sees the need to have a bureaucrat clearly shows that it sees the need to have, some inroads, as it were, into the bureaucracy and to the political establishment, possibly, which is why they have appointed a bureaucrat, because to be very honest, one doesn't really know what a bureaucrat brings to the financial sector, given the fact that now finance, banking have become highly specialized and technical, and a bureaucrat is essentially a generalist. So it's really doubtful. This is not to cast any aspersions on the credentials of the bureaucrat in question, but broadly, and the issue of bureaucrats being appointed to technical positions is not a good thing at all.
Okay, well, we may not know what a bureaucrat brings to the financial space, but I guess Maithili now we would hopefully know what he does, what he will do for ICICI Bank. But Meera, I'm going to ask you the other big news piece that we at ET Now have been covering all corners of, and that is in relation to the LIC-IDBI bank deal. Firstly, do you think this would be a tough nut for LIC to crack, assuming, of course, the RBS gives its nod and then subsequently the cabinet as well? Do you think this would be a tough nut to crack, given the fact that IDBI Bank, firstly, NPS is a big problem for IDBI Bank. It's, in fact, faring the worst among most of the banks when it comes to the NPA issue. So do you think LIC may be bringing on board quite a tough company in its relatively clean balance sheet?
I absolutely think this is really not a very good idea, and I'll tell you why. LIC's first obligation is to the people who have taken life insurance from it. I mean, this is not government money, this is not taxpayer money, this is not shareholder money. This is the money of people who have put their life savings to insure their lives. So for LIC to be making an investment which prima facie is a tough investment, and many would say a bad investment, is a really, really bad call. And I certainly hope that the IRDA takes this into account, because the government is treating LIC, and has done for quite a while, as its piggy bank to use to put into places where they are either trying to divest or trying to get capital. And I think this is quite unfair on the people who have put their life savings into LIC. Then the question regarding IDBI. IDBI is a tough nut to crack. It is a bank which is facing severe headwinds. It has a severe NPA issue, and clearly the team which is there has not been able to address it. So when you say that there are synergies, I heard your editor saying that there are synergies between LIC and IDBI, that is really stretching it very, very far. LIC has no experience in running a bank, and IDBI clearly has no experience in insurance. So to say that there are synergies is a very, very long stretch of imagination. So for many reasons, I think this is not a good idea, and I certainly hope that the IRDA takes it seriously, because one would imagine that the cabinet is, of course, pressurizing everyone to do it, so they will clear it. But IRDA, which represents people who are being insured, needs to take a stand.
Right, Meera, just hang on with us. Maithili, what is your view on LIC investing into IDBI Bank? How do you think it will happen? What essentially are some things to watch out for in the IRDA board meet today?
Well, I see no synergies, as Meera says. I see absolutely no synergies between LIC and IDBI Bank. But it will happen because the owner has decided that it will happen. So obviously the owner's voice counts. So the owner is the government of India, so it will happen. And remember also, we now have a bureaucrat heading IRDA also. So to that extent, as I said, it's a very wrong idea to get bureaucrats into regulatory positions, into banking positions, LIC, insurance, banking, etc. So in case IRDA, and I also remember there's the irony that IRDA in fact had told LIC to pare its stake in many companies to less than 15%. And now if the IRDA gives permission to LIC to hike its stake in IDBI Bank to more than 50%, you'll have a clear contradiction. The regulator had said one thing earlier and now saying exactly the opposite. So it does no good for IRDA's credibility. I see no synergies whatsoever. The only thing is it gives the government an easy way out, because instead of bailing out IDBI directly, it does it through the indirect route. But ultimately, I think it's the people of this country who suffer, because there are really no synergies whatsoever.
Okay, so Meera as well as Maithili both not very enthusiastic about this deal that may happen, of course, subject to IRDA's note, subsequently the cabinet's note. But thanks to all of you then for joining in, Ruchi, Meera as well as Maithili, on this story, LIC and IDBI Bank. Do remember, we have only the IRDA meet that, of course, is going to be in focus today, and that, of course, is being covered by Vijay Iyer. It's only after that that the cabinet will decide to give its go-ahead, which, Pankaj, like Maithili as well said, the fact that it's an easy way out for the government, I don't see any reason why the cabinet will not give its nod. But